Look, there is negative polling out today, all right? President Trump, 58%. Say first year, no good. So a veteran Democratic strategist is sounding the alarm. Now, this is very interesting. Democrats will lose in 2028 unless they change course. Why, if Trump is doing so poorly? Because Trump sucks is not enough. You need new leaders who have a new message to create new jobs and own affordability. Own it. Don't fight it on Twitter. Fight it in Congress. Fight it on the streets where the reality is. Let's discuss. Longtime Democrat, former Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu, conservative commentator, friend of show, Scottie Nell Hughes. Good to have you both. Scottie, what is your read on the numbers, especially seeing the breakdown with independents and Republicans?
Well, I think it comes down to the fact that both Republicans and Democrats are having a real hard time engaging their own bases, engaging the people that have come out and voted for them before. I think both sides have a lot of voter apathy, just sitting back saying, what difference does it make right now? I can go put a Democrat in office, nothing's going to be better. I'm going to now put a Republican in office, nothing can be better, and it's going to get better. That's what those numbers show to me, and that is exactly what both parties are going to have to change, that perception in the next 5 months.
Mitch, the piece that I was referring to, the guy says, look, what he's doing wrong is obvious. It may not be enough because people have real problems. It's not just a preference structure. It's not just arguing who's worse. People are desperate for something better. Do you believe that? And what does that mean for Democrats that they're not doing now?
Well, first of all, I think that the president's numbers are as bad as they have gotten for most presidents in the history of the country. It's a bad number. 57% of people think that your first year has been a failure. That's a hole that you're in, and you can't continue to dig the hole. I mean, any political consultant will tell you, well, stop digging first. And one of the challenges that Donald Trump has is that he has a very difficult time hearing what other people are telling him, and it doesn't look like that he's in a position to change course. He typically doubles down on what he's doing, which of course would be a tremendous mistake. Most people in America, I've been to 21 states, I've done tons of focus groups, talked to a lot of working class people making less than $90,000 a year, many of whom voted for Trump, who are like, look, I like the guy's toughness, but he's gone overboard. And he's done that in national security now. He's done it on domestic policy. Chris, I thought that your opening was a fairly objective observation of what he did. But as you saw in the last set of elections, whether it was in New Jersey, whether it was in Virginia, and to a certain extent in New York as well, the focus of the folks that won, who in this case happened to be more Democrats than Republicans, actually were focused on costs. And that is exactly the right prescription and going everywhere. I think in the Pluff article, one of the things I agreed with is Democrats had a tendency to forget about going into areas that they lost before. Now, I'm from a red state. I was lieutenant governor, elected twice. The way you win is you have to go everywhere, because if you don't, people go, you don't see me, you're not listening to me, you're not talking to me. They're telling the same thing to Donald Trump right now, and he's not listening. They're like, listen, we don't understand the Panama Canal and Greenland and the Venezuela play, and now you're over in Iran protecting the protesters, and all kinds of other stuff is going on while our grocery bills are going up, our electricities are going up. It doesn't seem like you're paying attention to me. That's what you're hearing. But again, David's right. You can't beat something with nothing. And so you have to have good candidates, you have to have a good message, and you have to have ways to do the things that people say they need, which is to lower prices. And that is health care, that is housing, that is electricity, and that is food. It's really basic stuff. People are saying very simply, I can't focus on saving democracy if I can't pay my bills, if I can't get my kids into school, if my kids are not going to have a better life than I have. And so the challenge for everybody running for midterms who want to save America is to deal with that problem first. And the folks that do that best, I think, are going to be given the responsibility of making it happen.
Scottie, as you know, I have a very specific fixation on healthcare costs, because I've never seen an issue that's literally hitting all of us. All three of us, I guarantee our rates went up. And, you know, Lord willing, you're not as price sensitive as many people are, but everybody's hitting it. So to me, we deal with it a lot. And what is your read on the following skepticism? If the credit card companies needed 3 days to get the administration to back off, what chance does the administration have trying to pressure Big Pharma, which is the beast of all beasts in the history of beasts?
Oh, you're exactly correct. This is one issue that hits across the board. And I will say, I think the Republicans have been tone deaf when it comes to this. I don't think they realize how much of a detriment this is going to be to their popularity in the midterms. This is not affecting not only lower class, but really it's the middle class that has been most affected by us not having health care policy. And there's no excuse why this was not why Republicans were working on it back in July amongst this other mess. Donald Trump today, that you're right, at least he's finally starting to talk about it. I don't know if the HSA is really, we're in a panic mode right now. Most people, all the politicians can continue with this broken system and they can be taken out to dinner by the lobbyists. The reality of it is the three of us are having to pay really high premiums right now. And that's just the three of us. Take that across the entire population. So unless we see real incident, and I was one of those people that was pushing for at least a 1 year fix, a moratorium on taking away the health care subsidies. Republicans, you do not need to make your people pay for the problem that you created and you refuse to deal with. So I think this is a huge issue. Republicans, if they do not have a solution by the time the midterms come through that actually makes people not have to pay these $3,000 premiums every month, they will lose. Book it right now.
Chris, first of all, Scottie, thank you for that. I think that's exactly right. I was in a focus group in New Hampshire, and I remember talking to this gentleman. He was white. He was a laborer. He made less than $60,000 a year. He voted for Trump both times, and he loved Donald Trump. But when we said to him that in the big, beautiful bill, they were going to give a tax cut to the wealthy, which he wasn't bothered much by, but then said as a consequence, they're going to cut Medicaid funding. He said, wait a minute, I have a special needs child and I'm on Medicaid. Is that going to challenge my ability for my kid to have coverage? He said, these were his words, that would be political malpractice. I will never vote for them again. So on the healthcare piece, you've got a coverage issue because people remember in red states, particularly in the rural South, that get hurt the most, that when we used to have a pre-existing condition, you used to get excluded, and then our family members died. Or if a rural hospital closed and your daddy caught a stroke and he couldn't get across the bridge to get, he would die as well. They really understand this in a visceral way. And these are voters that are in the middle. These are folks that I call them, I don't know, fusion voters maybe. They voted for Obama, then they voted for Trump, then they voted for, Biden, then they voted for, Trump again. But these folks are really locked into this idea of having that protection because they now know what it is. Now the cuts come and their costs have gone up on top of all of the other costs, and they are in a very unforgiving mood. They get all the other stuff, but if I could just put it simply, they're just saying to us, I can't breathe. And I can't get the weight off of my back, so I actually can't think about all this other stuff that is important, but it's not the most important thing in my life of having a roof over my head, feeding my kids, and making sure that my sick family members get the kind of care that they need.
Well,
Go ahead, Scottie, give me a button.
Real quick, what's happening is they're just not having health insurance. That's why this is a ticking time bomb right now. People are just saying, I can't afford it, so I'm not going to. And you have a lot of people I fear are walking around uninsured in the United States right now. And I do disagree. I do think if Republicans can come up with a solution very soon, I think we will forget. I think Republicans will forgive them and go to the polls and still vote Republicans. But like I said, if we make it to August in these primaries, but definitely by November, and they don't have a solution that has caught these premiums back into reality for most middle class families, you will have definitely a major issue on your hands, and the Democrats will win.
Scottie, you may be right about that, but I'll tell you this. There's a universal unanimity on fighting Big Pharma for higher drug prices. That cuts across everything. And
there's no question.
Cartels that they ought to be fighting are the big drug companies.
We need more generics. Hands down, need more generics right now put on the market, and the big pharma will fight it until they can't anymore. That is an easy solution that could be put through across the board.
I mean, look, it's simple. It's not easy.
Correct.
Most favored nation status sounds good. And again, I'm not being cynical. I would love to see this happen. But again, the credit card companies, all right, there's something. They are dwarfed by Big Pharma in terms of their footprint in D.C. And look, all three of us know it. All right, they put jobs in the health, because remember, they're all related. All right, it's Big Pharma, but it's the providers, it's the insurers, it's the reinsurers, it's the securitization on Wall Street where they run their money, right? And it's Big Pharma. It's all of them. Their lobbying is the most. Their job footprint is the broadest. Their lobbying is the most money to both sides. So it's a massive task. That's all I'm saying. It is the winning path, though, because the side that wins, and you guys both know I hate the sides, but that's the game, is the one that chooses country over company. And right. I know we need our companies. I know we need our small businesses. But that is the dividing line. And the side that makes it most clear which side they're on and why wins. We'll see who that is and how it happens, and we'll probably see it together. Mitch, I got to jump. Scottie, it's always great to see you. I wish you both good, long weekends. Boy, could we use a Dr. King today. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.